Chapter 29. Okay. When I came out of the hug, I saw adults all over the place, shouting into their walkie-talkies and texting like their thumbs were on fire. "She's okay," I heard. "She's back!" It was nice to know they'd all been so concerned about me, but the only person I could concentrate on was Liam. He stood there with his jaw practically on the ground. Was he surprised to see me? What did he expect, that I'd stay there forever waiting for him to come back and rescue me? That I'd turn into a human ice cube and spend the rest of my days in the Minnesota wilderness? Jeg, Olivia, Hannah, and Hannah came running up to me. Their hands were full with grilled cheese and cupcakes. "We were so worried," Hannah Z said. She handed over a warm chocolate bundle of joy. "Ladies, this is a lovely thought, but I think Elise needs blanket first. And warm clothes," Mr. Todd suggested. "No, cupcakes will work," I said through my frozen mouth, and everyone laughed. "I see the ordeal hasn't harmed her sense of humor," Mr. Todd chuckled. "But really, Elise, are you all right? We were so concerned. Your mom was this close to having the police come out here. What happened?" "I'm okay," I said. I snuggled back into Mom's arms. "But I'm a little blue." I pointed to my wet blue jacket. "A lot blue, actually, and I don't really know what happened. I guess I just kind of veered off course a little. My partner wasn't so good at sharing the compass or sticking around." Mr. Todd shot Liam a look, like he was in huge trouble, and Liam stared at the ground. "We'll talk about that later, and I mean seriously talk, Liam. For now, I'll grab blankets while you go change, Elise. Then we'll meet in the dinner cabin." Mom led me to my cabin without saying a word. She started a fire and carefully helped me peel off wet layer after wet layer until you could finally see my cold red skin. She went over to her bag and pulled something out. I was bracing myself for a goop down. I didn't have that many bad words left, but Mom would probably slather me anyway, when she opened her hands and showed me what she was holding. My fuzzy green knee-high socks! "I thought we should have these here," Mom said, "just in case." "Thanks." I grinned from ear to ear as I felt the new word that spread across my entire arm, all the way from my hand to my shoulder. Okay. I threw on a sweatshirt, some sweatpants, and the fuzzy socks. When I got back, everyone had already finished dinner, but a huge crowd swarmed me in the dinner cabin as I polished off 3 grilled cheese sandwiches, 2 enormous bowls of tomato soup, soup, and 2.5 gooey chocolate cupcakes. Hey, I earned it. "Were you scared?" Paige asked. "Did you see any bears?" asked Kevin. "I wish you had told me you were going to be late," Miss Sigfest insisted. "I would have appreciated knowing I'd have to prepare so many grilled cheese sandwiches so long after dinner time." "It wasn't exactly something I planned," I said, and everyone laughed, even her. I wondered if the grilled cheese comment was actually her way of trying to be funny. "Give Elise some space," said Mr. Todd. "She's had a very long night. It's getting pretty late. Let's all start heading to our cabins." People slowly trickled out in small groups until no one remained except Mom and Jeg. "Sweetie, you should really get to sleep," Mom said. Her arm was still around my shoulder. It was starting to feel a little heavy. "Let me know if you need anything tonight, okay? You can wake me anytime. I'm just a few cabins away from you." "Okay," I said. I jumped to my feet and shook her arm off in the process. To my surprise, Jeg grabbed my arm and linked hers through my elbow, like we used to do when we were little. Like she'd done all year with Snotty Amy. "I'll take good care of her, Mrs. Everett," she promised. We stepped outside. It was still cold, dark, and windy, but I wasn't scared. It was hard to believe that I had just been all alone out there, not sure if I would live to eat grilled cheese. It all seemed like such a long time ago. For a few minutes, the only sound was our boots crunching in the snow. "You know," I finally said as I stepped on a small piece of ice, crushing it beneath my foot, "Liam isn't so nice. He totally ditched me out there." "I know," Jeg mumbled. "And it kind of seemed like you were telling him about the notes before we left on the scavenger hunt. Were you?" "No!" She pushed her scarf out of her face. "Of course not. I was just telling him I was glad I got you for a roommate, and that I was going to miss him." Her face reddened. "I'm really sorry, Elise, for being with him. I just wanted to go out with someone. Amy and everyone told me I should because we all had boyfriends, so I needed one too, and he was interested. I thought I would be with Kevin forever, but I guess not." We pushed open the door to our cabin and started flinging off our winter clothes, sending them flying in every direction. The heat from the fire Mom had made in our cabin earlier felt amazing. I watched Jeg's stuff scatter. All of her winter clothes were different than they used to be. When we were little kids, and even up until last year, she had the craziest snow stuff I'd ever seen. She'd wear zebra-striped snow pants, rainbow coats, mittens with sequins, the works. But now all of her stuff was so plain, so regular, so not Jeg. A funny feeling crept up in my gut again, and I knew it wanted me to come clean about the part I had played in her breakup with Kevin. Even though I hadn't really been responsible for them breaking up. Even though she didn't really deserve my apology. I was going to do it anyway. Jeg, I said, it's kind of a long story, but I sort of mentioned to Kevin that it might be a good idea to break up with you. It was one of the mystery notes that suggested it, actually, but it was my choice to do it, and I wanted you to know that I'm really sorry. I didn't mention that the writer of this particular mysterious note wasn't so mysterious anymore. I had already messed up one of her relationships. I wasn't going to say any more about this one. All I could do was hope she'd figure Liam out before he could make her sad. I slipped off my sweatshirt and threw it on the bottom bunk. Before I knew it, I was down to my very bottom layer, a thin, dark gray t-shirt, and she could see the giant OK trailing down my arm. For some reason, I wasn't worried about it anymore. Whoa, Jeg said, looking at me. I looked back at her, and maybe it was the weird shadows in the cabin, but I could have sworn that our best friend's necklace was tucked under her shirt. She turned away from me, slipped on her pajamas, and climbed into the top bunk. I haven't seen those words in a while. You look really cool. Then she sighed. It's okay, Elle. I told Kevin I kissed Pierre, and that's why he broke up with me. It had nothing to do with you. It's super weird that one of Mr. Todd's notes would ask you to do that, though. What does the principal care who's going out with who? Don't know, I said. Maybe he really wants to be a matchmaker instead of a principal. Jeg giggled. He could get his own TV show. Middle school matchmaker? I laughed and took a happy deep breath. I still wasn't Jeg's biggest fan in the world, but there was something nice about knowing that she wasn't mad at me. She may have said more stuff after that, but I'm not quite sure because I fell asleep the second my head touched the pillow. Everyone was extra nice to me after I'd survived getting lost on the scavenger hunt. The next day, Jeg invited me to sit with her in the loud crowd at breakfast, and I did. And when Snotty Amy looked over at Hannah B. at the next table and asked us, "Do you think she wears a bra because she needs one or because she wants one?" Jeg very politely turned to me and said, "Elise, what do you think?" I didn't really know what the answer was, and I didn't want to say anything mean about Hannah. So I just kind of smiled and shrugged, and that must have been the right answer because Snotty Amy was all, "Yeah," and they smiled at me like I was doing a good job. Then I hung out with Hannah, and Olivia, and I could just relax and talk about normal things like cupcakes and books and not have to worry if I was getting answers right or not. After that, I sat by the fireplace for a while, all by myself, and I didn't even sneak off like I usually do at lunch. I just told people I wanted to be alone for a little bit, and they said okay. I still don't know if they thought it was weird or not. Maybe they did, but that's their opinion, not mine. It felt good to think like that. Then, during the trust fall, people were actually fighting over who got to be my partner. I picked Nice Andy. "You're so awesome and cool," he told me before he fell into my arms. "Thanks," I said. Then I said, "Oof," and caught him, though I stumbled backward a little bit. Okay, a lot, in the process. Awesome and cool were still in my arms, right where he had put them, but they seemed to be staying put whether he repeated them or not. After the trust fall, Mr. Todd made a huge deal about presenting me with my official Explorer Leader poster in front of everybody. It was weird. The poster had seemed so important before, but I had almost forgotten about it until he unrolled it and waved it up in the air like a big flag. And there it was, my face, surrounded by all the good words I'd wanted so bad. Funny, smart, helpful, friendly, creative, organized, great leader. They went on forever. The poster looked exactly like I'd hoped it would, but there was something confusing about it. All these words, these amazing qualities that I thought being Explorer Leader would help me to be, well, wasn't I a lot of them before? Actually, not to toot my own horn or anything, but wasn't I all of them before? I smiled and took the poster from Mr. Todd as everyone clapped. Suddenly, everything was so obvious. The mystery notes, being Explorer Leader, they were great, but they didn't magically turn me into the girl on the poster with the good words swirling around her head. She was the person I already was. Everything else just helped me notice. And with the poster tucked in my arms and the words echoing in my mind, I knew I'd never forget. I wish I had one of those, Snotty Amy said in a quiet voice as the clapping died down. I glanced at her over my shoulder and saw that she hadn't said that to a friend. She'd said it to the ground. Her eyes refused to meet anyone else's. She didn't look nearly as cool as she usually did when she was surrounded by everybody. Now she just looked normal, maybe even sort of sad. She looked like a girl who just really needed some compliments. I whispered something to Mr. Todd and he nodded. Then he disappeared into a cabin for a minute and came back with a bunch of markers and a thick stack of blue papers. Spontaneous new activity, courtesy of our Explorer Leader, he said, and I quickly sat everyone down at the picnic tables and explained it. I couldn't believe an idea like this had just popped into my mind, and that I'd been brave enough to tell it to Mr. Todd, and now we were really doing it. Actually, maybe I could believe it. 10 minutes later, we were done. The other posters weren't as big and fancy as my poster, but what they said was more important than what they looked like. Everybody put their names at the top of their papers and left them on the tables, and then everyone walked around and wrote compliments on them. Now everybody had their own mini posters, filled with a bunch of good words from a bunch of different people. It was so fun looking at all the papers that I accidentally left my poster behind when it was time to go have a snack inside. Snotty Amy, or maybe just regular Amy, actually, ran up to me holding it. You forgot this one. You forgot this, she said in a totally regular, non-snotty kind of way. Thanks, I said. Yeah, thanks to you too, she said, and she smiled. All right,